Hello. So this is my first video talking on camera. It was a little bit strange, but it's one of those things you need to do if you want an online business in this day and age. So I'm just wanting to talk a little bit more about my personal healing journey and why I wanted to become a healer, and the story of how I got there, really. So in 2019 I was lucky enough to meet my twin flame, the love of my life, soulmate, and this inevitably caused a cataclysm of spiritual awakenings, healing, evolution, all the things that come with a twin flame journey. So it was my love for my twin flame that inspired me to heal, because I wanted to be the best version of myself, both for them and for me, because so I could enjoy the gifts that the universe had given me. But in my unhealed state I wasn't able to do that. I had a lot of conditioning from my childhood and trauma from my very abusive, toxic, violent childhood, growing up in a narcissistic household. I had a lot of conditioning and wounds there from not receiving the love that I should have done and the safety that I should have done as a child. This made me very, very clingy, very, very insecure in relationships, very needy. I pinned so much of my worth on how much attention this other person would give me, how much love they would give me. My whole validation was decided by them, which isn't the right way to be. So this is just going to cause problems in your relationship, because you're constantly going to be looking for problems, worried that they're going to abandon you, worried that they're going to leave you. You're not going to be open to enjoy the relationship or trust it when it's going well. So yes, this is why I really needed to heal this, because I was going to fuck up having the best person for me in my life, and I wasn't prepared to do that. So I had always been obsessed with romance right from a teenager. I loved romantic films, I loved romantic novels. I always believed that my Prince Charming would come and, rescue me, sort all my problems out. I would be complete. So it was a very, very fantasy style idea of what love should be, and being with my twin flame made me realise that this is actually not how love should be at all. So during my healing I did have a few sessions of psychotherapy, which I found to be very beneficial. This gave me a really good understanding of my brain activity, how it was wired, why I was the way I was. It was also good to be able to talk to somebody about my childhood without them having any judgment, and to give an outsider's opinion. My therapist was also very good at promoting breath work, more holistic practices that I was already into anyway, yoga, meditation. She really supported all of that as part of healing, rather than pharmaceutical drugs, because that was a road I definitely didn't want to go down. For me personally, I don't think that would have been a good idea at all. So I had bouts of psychotherapy with that, but I felt the real crux of my healing was my spiritual practices. My therapist did realise how overactive my nervous system was. She said about how hypervigilant. I was extremely hypervigilant, and this was from never being able to trust when things are going well or relax properly in my childhood, because everything could be fine one minute and then I say one thing, bang, the dynamic changed, violent outbursts, chaos, fucking shit going on. So this was meant that my nervous system was constantly in fight or flight survival mode, and I've been living my life since then, since my childhood all the way through into adulthood, in that constant cycle of fight or flight, which is exhausting. It was very overstimulated. I was absolutely exhausted, and I needed to learn how to heal that. So my spiritual practices were very beneficial for me it helped me to connect to my true authentic self, the real version of me, and not the version that I had to become to survive my childhood and what I thought I had to keep doing in adulthood, what society conditioned you to be. You know, it strips that away and you're just left with your real authentic raw self, and that's a really beautiful experience. But you do have to go through darkness to find the light. So it is facing a lot of parts of yourselves that you may have suppressed or kept hidden, you don't really like. You have to learn to face those, process those, and learn to love all parts of yourself, even the bad bits. So it's very challenging, but it is a very rewarding experience if you can go on a proper healing journey and returning to your true authentic self, who you came here to be. So yeah, my spiritual practices, as I said, were a big help with that. And then I'd always wanted to do a career or job where I was helping other people, and the further down my healing journey I went, the more I was just like, I have to be part of helping heal the world, because I'm seeing people walking around carrying so much pain. There's just destruction everywhere. It doesn't need to be like this. How can I help? But I just didn't know how. I became a personal trainer because I wanted to help people. I was going to help people feel much better about themselves, get in control of their health and well-being. But it just didn't quite fit still. And at the crux of me running my personal training business was also at the time when I was in my deepest, darkest parts of my healing journey. And it became very, very challenging to try and run a business, motivate myself, motivate my clients, get new business, all the things that come with running your own business. Became very difficult to do when some days even just getting out of bed was a challenge, because I had brought all of this trauma to the surface to be released and healed and dealt with. I'd spent some nights not even being able to sleep. I was awake at 2, 3 in the morning, receiving my downloads from the universe, crying on the bathroom floor, because I was getting it all out. It was all needing to be released. But as I said, this made running a business very challenging. So in the end, I decided to stop my personal training business, as I didn't feel I could give my clients what they deserved for the money I was charging them, and just to give myself a break. My healing journey was my priority. So I stopped my business, took on some work to carry on paying the bills, just while I figured out my path and my journey from there. But as I was going further and further down, again, this journey of doing basic work for money to pay my bills, I was getting bigger and bigger douses of what's called soul sickness. And this is just where your soul is crying out to you for you to listen to your soul's calling, your soul's purpose, and to go for it. And I kept having the spiritual side come out. I want to do meditation and rituals, and somehow be a healer, and what could I do for a business? But I was always too afraid to take that leap of faith. And with money, I didn't see how I could earn enough money through doing that. So I kept putting it off, and I sold my soul for financial security, basically. Until last year, I had another dose of soul sickness that got so bad, I could feel that black cloud behind me of depression starting to come over me. And after doing so well on my healing journey and healing my depression that I'd had since I was a teenager, since I was about 12 years old, was the first time I remember having depression. I'd done so well at healing it, and then to feel the prickle on the back of my neck of it coming again really frightened me. And I didn't want to go back down that road. I felt I'd done all this healing work, and then it had just come full circle again. So I knew I had to answer my soul's calling. I knew I needed to be a healer. I needed to do something spiritual to help heal the world. I just didn't know how. So I begged and begged and begged the universe during that time, and just said, please, you're going to need to give me a really specific, clear sign of where I'm going with this, because my soul is dying. I could feel my soul dying. And I was like, I really need to have some guidance here. So on a On a very quiet night shift, I was flicking through my phone, and this is where I came across an advert for an apprenticeship for shamanism to become a shamanic healer. And this is where I met my my teacher. So I did a bit of research into it, and I'd come across shamanism before of doing my spiritual practices, but I didn't know too much. Did a bit of research and thought, yeah, still wasn't, still too afraid to take the leap. And in the end, this advert was just, I saw it everywhere. Every single time I picked up my phone, her face was there, and it was just, you need to speak to this lady. You need to do this. So I did, and then I ended up getting a lot more clarity on what it is I could do as a healer, shamanic healer. I went through an initiation. I went through a set of questions to see, there was 10 things to see if you were, this is the right path for you, and I answered yes to all 10 of them. It was all crazy things that have happened in your life, near-death experiences, childhood trauma. It was crazy. So I did my apprenticeship, and now I'm qualified. I'm ready to start help healing the world. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Obviously my signature offering is inner child healing, because that's directly my experience and what I've been through, and how it affects your romantic relationships is something I'm really clued up onto, because that was something I researched a lot in my healing journey with my own relationship. So if you are thinking that you could really do with a healing journey but you're unsure of how to start, please message me, because I've been there. I know how turbulent it can be and how overwhelming, but I also know how amazing it can be if you can get out the other side. So message me, we can talk. I do custom made packages for people regarding your healing journey. So as my first video, this has been a bit strange walking around with a camera, but I have enjoyed getting my story out, I guess, and hoping that it inspires somebody else to start their healing journey. I guess these videos will get a bit better as I become more confident with talking to a camera and talking about my stories. Talking about childhood trauma can be a little challenging, but it's doing great wonders for my throat chakra. Speaking my truth, I think is really important, that we all speak our truth. So yeah, if you found this video helpful, just let me know.